All right. Well, we are live, and I had a little trouble with the intro, and I'm just going to run it back real quick. Everybody, hang tight. We're okay. There's something happening all around us, and most people never stop to really look at it. It looks like entertainment, it feels like opportunity. Sometimes it even feels like control. But underneath all of it, there's a system, and that system is not built for you to win. I didn't always see it this way. I spent years inside the casino industry as a dealer, as a supervisor, helping open poker rooms, training people to become poker dealers. And when you're in that position like I was, you're not just working, you're watching. You start to see who the regulars are. You start to see how often they come in. You start to see the patterns. The same people, the same behaviors, the same outcomes. And at the same time, I'm training people, teaching them how to work in casinos as poker dealers and sending them out into this world. And at some point, I had to ask myself something. Do they actually understand what they're stepping into? Because I didn't when I started. And the longer I stayed, the clearer it became. This wasn't just a collection of games. This was a system with structure, with incentives, with outcomes that repeat over and over again. And most people inside of it, they don't actually see it. But once you see it, you can't unsee it. That's why this exists. This is No Gambler's Nation, a place where we step back and actually look at what's happening. Not emotionally, not reactively, but clearly, so that whether you're a player or someone working inside the industry, you can make decisions from understanding instead of illusion. And over time, as more people see it, everything starts to change. Welcome to No Gambler's Nation. All right. So here we are. It is Tuesday, May 19th. If you don't know me, if it's your first time seeing me on YouTube, my name is Mark Shumsker. I'm known on YouTube as True Poker Dealer. I've been on here teaching people to work in casinos as professional poker dealers for over a decade at this point, which is pretty wild to think about. And here we are on No Gambler's Nation, a show where we teach people about negative expected value systems and how to be in a life that's positive EV with positive expected value. And we stole this from the poker world. Poker in general for years has been thinking in terms of expected value. And we have two amazing people today. They are my financial guys, which I'm very proud to have them as my financial guys. And the first one is a longtime friend of mine who's been here many, many times before. And I am going to bring him onto the stage first. Mike Laake, how you doing today, Mike?
Excellent, man. Thanks for having me on, as always.
Yeah, for sure, man. Super glad to have you here. And if this is your first time watching Mike, Mike has been a poker dealer for over 15 years. He's no longer dealing poker. He was a poker pro player for over 15 years. Do you play a lot of poker nowadays, by the way?
Less and less, honestly. I just don't enjoy the people for the most part for the negative expected. The people that can survive those negative expected systems become the lower versions of people that I want to be around, unfortunately. So less and less these days.
Well, I totally understand that. And, we sort of cherish poker because you can win in the long run at poker, but also there's the thing that you just said. I mean, being around a lot of those people sometimes can weigh on you. And Mike, nowadays you're in the financial world. You're leveling up your expected value relationship with money, right? Poker's a game that we all play trying to make money in the long run. And now you're doing something that has a higher ceiling. It's a little bit easier and you can help people more, right?
Yep, bigger sharks and bigger whales, but it's still the same game, really.
Totally. So listen, we've been coming on here Tuesday after Tuesday after Tuesday for a very long time. We've had a lot of guests here that have been amazing, and we've had amazing conversations. And today feels a little bit special. Why don't I let you introduce Devin, who's about to come
Honestly,
on?
thank you. I should have actually suggested that originally, but I introduced Devin to Mark, maybe a month or so ago, and we've had really great conversations so far. And Devin's been one of the most helpful, most friendly, kind, generous people with his time that I've ran into in this entire business so far. And I have thanked him for that to his face many times, but I also like saying it out to the audience. So, Devin Vazquez, welcome to the show.
Hey, how you guys doing this evening?
Great to have you here, Devin, and good to see you again as well.
No, excellent. Thanks for having me as well. Great to see you as well, Mark. Thank you for sharing your platform and bringing me on as a guest. Excited about this evening and what the conversation and where we go.
Yeah, totally. And listen, I've got a lot of stuff that I want to talk to you about today, and it's nice. This is the first time in maybe a month that I actually have interacted with the person who's come on the show before. Every week for the last like 3 or 4 weeks is the very first time I'm meeting somebody. But you're essentially my financial advisor, and you and Mike are my financial guys. And this is really I feel really appreciative that you're here today, because what we do on this show is we try to essentially sway people toward building habits that have positive expected value for them in their life. And we've talked week after week after week on this show about the poor habits that I used to have, that Mike used to have, and that so many people in the casino industry, dealer world, all these different industries have around money. And now Mike and especially right now you, Devin, are here to help us think differently, maybe make some different decisions and build some different habits. And I have some questions for you that, I want to let you sort of just cook a little bit here and take us in whatever direction you want to start out, because you're one of the most prepared people I've ever met. But yeah.
Oh man, now I feel like I got big shoes to fill.
Well, yeah, it's definitely good to have you here. And all right, look. So we spoke last time in the week before, and even in our personal meeting where I actually had a meeting with you guys the very first time I met you, Devin, about my poor habits when it comes to money. And one of the things that's especially troubling for somebody who is either a regular person in this world working a regular job, or maybe a poker dealer, right? And we talk about how poker dealers double their income overnight, essentially, and all of a sudden, like the same person making more money. But what's a simple place for somebody to start? Because you have all this financial mastery nowadays, and Mike is developing that as well, for sure. Where's a simple place for somebody to start thinking that's living a regular life and has bad habits around money?
I think the first place to start, and I think if we go back to just life in general, and you peel back all the complexities of what's going on in life, a lot of times when you start anything in life, most of the time you sit down and you write out a plan. Whether that's, hey, I want to start learning how to play poker, or hey, I want to start learning how to deal poker, or I want to get financially free. I want to have an emergency fund. I want to have the ability to go on vacation when I want to go on vacation. No matter what your want is, if you take a step back and write it down, and 99% of the time you're going to come up with a plan. Tom Brady didn't go out and win 4 Super Bowls just saying, hey, I'm going to run onto the field and I'm going to throw the ball to the fastest guy and they're going to score touchdowns. No, they choreographed and had a plan probably for like the first 2 quarters. Bill Belichick, if I'm a coach as great as he is, I'm already got choreographed exactly what play I'm running for the first 2 quarters. And then if a defense runs something at me, the eye in the sky is going to tell me what's going on, and I'm going to pivot. 99% of the time we all get in our cars and we probably put a address into a GPS, and it's going to give us 3 different routes. It's going to give us the route that's the most expensive. It's going to give us the route that is used by 99% of the majorities, probably the free route as well. And then it's going to give you the scenic route. Hey, this avoids highways. Hey, this avoids tolls. You're going to be on 2-lane highways, and you're going to see probably a part of the state that you've never seen. So when I think about finances, I think about Google Maps. I can tell you can tell me where you want to be. You can tell me how much money you have coming in. You can tell me how much debt you have. You can tell me everything that you dream of, and we can almost reverse engineer into how we're going to get to that number at the end of the day. I believe when we first started speaking, Mark, my very first question to you, and it's probably like an elementary school question, and I'll ask every client this just to see where their brain is at, is I always say, if we take finances off the table and take money off the table, what would your life look like if you were able to paint your picture? And I remember the first time when we first talked, you laughed and you were like, oh, all right, I see where this is going. We're going to go down this rabbit. And then what did we start talking about? Baseball cards, basketball cards, and how to play poker. We didn't even talk finance. I really just got to know one another for like a good 15, 20 minutes. And then now look what that's blossomed into. You know, I never knew getting on a Zoom call with you one day, this is what we were going to unfold, and this is what we were going to turn into. But this is where we're here today. So I think that's the first step. I know that was long-winded, but sitting down and going with a plan, whether that's talking to a professional, whether that's utilizing your resources at hand. I'm sure everyone's watching from a computer or a mobile device. You have internet exposed to you. I'm not the only person that's out there in the world that has financial advice. 90% of the stuff that I utilize for my own is stole shamelessly. Either someone else taught me about it, someone else showed me this particular diagram that resonated with me, and it's resonated with my clients, or I've listened to a podcast and was like, ooh, I really like how that's explained. And then utilizing that. So all of it is gathered information throughout my career, throughout my time. And what I found is, and I don't know if you could share the kind of the documents that I sent over to you, is really like that 10 bullet point. Hey, if we were to sit down and start, where would we start? And we kind of put this together.
I want
10 financial mistakes that hurt wealth. And you can start anywhere you want.
Mike's asking us to pause for a sec, so I'm gonna take this down, but it's available in a second.
Yeah, all right. No, we're gonna get right back. So like,
go ahead, Mike.
The really like, there was a point that you made in there that, you know, I consider myself the scholar of the message, and I'm learning it to a certain degree, and Mark's like a sub-scholar of the message, and he's trying to teach it to everybody else that's never heard of the message, right? And so there's like an interesting element where you described the playbook, and you were even going as far to say, like, well, I don't actually know if you know that Mark's a pretty big Patriots fan or not. That obviously Belichick and Brady is an easy analogy to make often, but there's an element of like, the playbook is different based on what quarter we're in also, right? And so like when you have an advisor, if you're in the first quarter, you know, sometimes you have a set playbook, sometimes there's things you want to run. And honestly, sometimes it can be kind of easy, right? Like run the ball up the middle is not a difficult play to call, right? But it's when you get third and long that you actually get in the second quarter, third quarter, that the advisor's value slowly grows over time. And I just think that there's like a real strong like analogy there, and I'm glad that we were able to touch on
it. He said that he was having trouble hearing you, but the audience could still hear you. I could still hear you. So I suggested that he just exit and come back. I don't know exactly why that was like that, but
I did notice that midstream, but I wasn't sure how to fix it.
Sometimes like I've noticed this when someone else uses the same program, StreamYard, and whatever. Listen. This conversation, I'm going to bring him back right now, and we'll see. Mike, can you talk? We'll just see if everyone can hear.
Hello, testing.
Yeah, I got Mike now.
Can you hear everybody now? Great.
Right.
So just to backtrack for a second, I agree with Mike. Devin, you said a lot of stuff in the intro, and Mike, do you mind just doing a quick little recap of what you just said so Devin can catch up?
No, for sure. Like, I didn't want to move on without like kind of highlighting the fact that you referenced the Patriots, and I don't know if you actually remember that Mark's a big Patriots fan or not, but it's an easy one to go to either way. But the fact that, like, okay, the first quarter plays, calling them is quite easy, right? When you're in your 20s, you can run the ball at the middle. No, it's nothing. You can throw Hail Marys. You can do literally anything in your first quarter. You can't screw it up that much. When you get in the second quarter, those consequences start getting a little larger. The playbook can start to change. If you're actually, you know, down 21-0, you got to call a different playbook than when you're up 21-0, right? So it was a very powerful metaphor that you just kind of eloquently glossed through. That, like, man, like That was really powerful, and I just kind of wanted to like stop briefly, and then I realized you couldn't hear me, and I didn't know what to do about it. So,
No, you're absolutely correct. You hit it on the head. And I think individuals feel that way as well. And that's why we find that when individuals get to like their 40s, their 50s, now it's like whew, slap in the face. I need to talk to a professional. I need to get on a game plan. I need to do something because what I've been doing is throwing Hail Marys and running the ball when it's 3rd and 10 is not working, you know? And that's why the Giants are where the Giants are, because they run the ball.
I also did like the Patriots reference, just like Mike said I would, just to confirm it, right? But I especially like so people don't always know this. The questions that I ask are not scripted, right? I'm following genuine curiosity in the moment, and so when I ask you where to start, I don't know what you're going to say, and you know. When you say sit down and start writing out a plan, I'm like, oh shit, I need to actually start writing some stuff down right now and just like lock in some of these core layers for myself and other people for just about anything, because we're talking generally right now about money plus EV, but there's so many different categories that this applies to. It applies to fitness, like last week. It applies to, I mean, it's like health and fitness and nutrition and relationship. And I mean, Mike's talked a few times about all the different things, but it hit me when you said sit down and start writing out a plan, because I'm like, oh, the time that I sat down and did a meeting with the two of you, that's the first thing that we did, just like you said. And it's like, oh, this is not just what they do in the meeting. It's the right way to approach anything in order to go from where you are today to where you want to be. And I think it's incredibly valuable to just slow down here for just a moment, because I mean, we are literally talking on a regular basis about all of the ways that you can spend your time as a human, you know, and we're talking about the traps that people fall into. We're talking about how you can go gamble without understanding what you're getting yourself into. And I try to eliminate the truth that, like, if you spend 300 hours at a roulette table, you'll have a 1 in a trillion chance of still being ahead by the end of the 300th hour if you're playing even money bets, for instance, and 1,300 at slot machines and all this stuff. We talk about how you can just sit in front of your phone all day forever and just waste your time away. How do you exit that? The way to exit that is to, one, want to live a plus EV life, right? And just to put this back up, we've got Plus EV Life YouTube channel coming soon. I like that very much. And, you know, second, you build a plan. You sit down and you start writing out a plan. And I bring guest after guest on the show to try to give people a touch point to sit down and build the plan, which is what you do with Mike, what you do with Devin. By the way, Devin comes with Mike a lot of the time, right? Right? Like, if you guys reach out to Mike, you get Devin too. This is why Devin's here right now. Right. And so now you get to meet him and feel more comfortable. But you sit down and you create a plan. And from there, it leads to not being me, who's 44, who wasted the first 25 years of my adulthood in terms of compounding interest and all that stuff. Right. And we've spoken about that. I've had my hands on tens of thousands, if not more, dollars, and I've wasted all of it over the years. And I'm not going to do that anymore. But this is those first 25 years are incredibly impactful. And I mean, Devin, you have a graphic that we'll look at a little bit later that can really show that. But yeah, so I love that Mike slowed us down for a second, and I just wanted to slow us down for a second too. And I also want to let you cook, Devin, because you got a lot to say. And I really
yeah, it was a balance. I was like, man, he's cooking it. I want to stop just a moment.
Yeah, and to the crowd out there, I'm usually the guy that's listening. So I'm usually asking the question and I'm usually quiet. To everybody that knows me knows that guy's never quiet. You guys let him cook, he's going to go. He's just going to rattle. So, yeah, I appreciate the pause. I appreciate the step in. I need that every now and then. You know, sometimes on Zoom, you don't get the true, on YouTube, should I say, you don't get the true, feeling and true interaction. So, yeah, no, absolutely. But yeah, kind of back to like 10 mistakes that we come up to. This is not mine. This is this is not financial advice at the end of the day. If you want personal financial advice, schedule a call with Mike and myself. I would love to sit down. I would love to hear your story. I would love to get into the weeds with you and kind of educate you on what we can do to help you out. These are just the 10 items that we find that a lot of clients want to talk about when they're sitting down talking to us.
And when you say they want to talk about it, so when you create when you sit down and you start writing out a plan, the plans are basically geared toward improving all of this, or whatever parts of this apply to the person, right?
Yeah. So we found that these 10 items, and you can start on any one. So number 1 is not the most important. Number 10 is not the least important. So you kind of pick where you want to start. Sometimes we meet with clients and number 1, low income, that's not an issue. Sometimes that's the major issue. So it's really meeting each client and tailoring to them at the end of the day, because we're all different. We're all running at our own game. We're all running on our own timeline. We're all running our own speed, so it doesn't make sense to compare to Johnny Sue down the block, who I don't know what he's went through. I don't know what he's accomplished. I don't know what he's failed at. I'm talking to you. So that's the first thing, is we always pick a starting point and we let the client pick the starting point. They pick where they want to work at the end of the day.
Wrong risks.
Say it again, Mike.
Wrong risks, right? So like, part of what this is like you put it in front of everybody and you let them decide what is triggering, right? So you decide, you kind of let, like Mark, I'm sure there's one, you don't even have to say it, but I'm sure there's one on here that stands out more than the others for you, right? So just giving people a branching point is kind of like a conversation starter more than anything, right?
I'm incredibly willing to answer whatever vulnerable questions about my own financial situation you guys might ask me, by the way.
Yeah, so I mean, we'll kind of run through one, pick one that you want to start with, and I'll kind of start walking through it. Let's just start with no goals, number 3, because that's kind of where we're talking, where we're established. And that's the first thing, is to have paper goals, things like that. So when we're talking about no goals, really, Mark, I mean, I believed I shared with you my personal family goal. Like, hey, like when you sit down and we think about this, I want you to think about the next 3 years. I want you to think about the next 10 years. And then I want you to think about the next 20 years. So there's a lot to think about. And right now, the first goal, I know personally, when I'm thinking about a goal, one thing that me and my family are trying to accomplish is we want to have a rental property. We want to have an additional home. We want to have an additional door, is what we call it in the household. And that's what me and my wife are striving towards, or what my wife and I should say, because she's more important than I. That's what we're striving towards. Like, that's the goal. So for 2026, it's, hey, let's buy an investment property. We don't know what the investment property, how much it's going to be. We don't know where it's going to be located at. We just know that's the goal, is we want to buy an investment property. Well, we know that the investment property is going to be less than 250 to 300,000. Okay. So then now we just use math to back into that. So if we say, hey, we're buying an investment property for 300,000, usually the mortgage is about 5% of that. So that's about 15,000 a year, or about $1,250 on an annual basis, minus obviously taxes and fees and insurances and things like that, just taking the mortgage into effect. Well, I know I can get more than $1,250 on a rental right now with the rental industry the way it's at. I may have to buy a house that I may have to invest in, may have to put more income into it to bring it up to rental code. But hey, that's my goal right now for 2026. And some people may ask, well, why do you want that as a goal? Well, I want additional passive income coming in. And with all that additional passive income, the easiest way to start any plan and to have any investments is to have an additional stream of income. So all that income I'm going to make, I'm going to turn it around and utilize that to fund all my investments. So our salaries, our W-2 income is what we're going to live off of. And then the additional income that's coming through passively is what's going to be invested for us. So let's just take 2 incomes, you and your wife out working, same concept. Now we're just trying to divide her income. How can we take a sliver of that for your investment? So that's our particular goal. Our particular goal is to have a rental property by the end of 2026. I can tell you that it's probably going to be somewhere in the Pittsburgh area or the Tampa Bay area, just based on where we're located at. And we're shooting for something right around 300,000 or less, preferably a townhouse or a duplex. That's what our goal is for this year.
And so just so I can sort of repeat this back and understand it, you're saying that a strong goal to build toward would be to have a passive income revenue source. And it sounded like you said that you had a property that you have in mind that you want to get and then rent it out, and then that's the passive income, right?
Correct.
And just to be a little bit clear about it, that's one of the safer routes, if I understand correctly. Like, I'm going to be a little bit naive here for a sec, maybe overdo it slightly. Mike sort of hates when I do that sometimes. But, but
No,
yeah,
you're
so
so
like,
good at it. I just don't know when you're serious or not. That's
yeah,
that's the struggle.
So, and what are some other examples of passive income goals that people might choose?
Yeah. So other things might be like YouTube. So for instance, if I was in a trade right now, anybody that I sit down with a trade, I always ask them, why aren't they wearing Meta glasses? There are 1,000 of Instagram pages, YouTube pages of gentlemen that are working with their hands, women working with their hands, and simply filming what they're doing and then putting that online and getting revenue dollars and streams from that. It could be simply as, hey, I want to have an investment portfolio. I want my investments. I want to put money into the stock market. All right, we're going to carve out a portion that goes to the stock market. But having a goal in mind, I want to lose weight. Okay, when do you want to accomplish that? That's better for you. That means you're going to live longer. So any goal, I want to pay off debt. Excellent. Have a story of one of my first years in the business. I sat down with a family. They were making about $60,000 in household income, and they had about $40,000 in debt. High interest credit card debt too. And the first thing they said is, I just want to get out of debt because I feel like I'm sinking. The boat is just continuously sinking every single day. And the first thing I told them is, excellent, we're going to apply for another credit card. And they looked at me like I was crazy. And I said, well, if the goal is to get you out of credit card debt, before your credit score drops tremendously low, let's get a 0% interest card and push as much interest, as much debt as we can to that 0% interest card. So every month you're making the payment, it's not jumping back up on you. Now, obviously, not everybody has that capacity, you know? So it's little things like that when you start talking to us that we think outside the box. All right, well, you have 40,000 in credit card debt. Hey, this particular company's giving 0% right now for the next 21 months. Even if we pay $1,000 towards that, that's at least we know the next 24 months there's going to be interest free for us. So just little things like that. Whatever the goal is, we can come together with a plan and a strategy on how we're going to tackle that goal.
And I really like how, like, the reality is you're basically sharing that there's a whole bunch of information in this world related to, you know, financial positive expected value. And over the years, you've developed mastery of it, and you're not trying to pretend like it's original stuff that's yours. You're basically saying, like, hey, just like any business, things that work, and you learn the right things. And here you are, available to work with somebody. And I have so much trouble with this part. I want people to reach out to you guys. I want them to make it easy on themselves. I want people to just be like, how much easier do I need to make it than to have you come on YouTube and just put an email and a phone number up, and all they have to do is just reach out to you, and it's free, and there's no downside. Like, but the thing that you're pointing at here is really powerful, and I experienced it firsthand, and it's that each person's plan is unique to them, and you're there to basically give your brains to be available to come up with a plan that makes sense to the person and feels good. And it's that simple. And then you start building your habits from there, right? Mm-hmm. And talking about goals and passive income, like my goal wouldn't be to get a rental property unless you have conversation with me and I get excited about it, you know? And like, it's really nice to just get it reiterated in this conversation that the art of what you do is take people where they're at and bring them toward the path, the plan that they write out with you toward where they want to go. And it's not that complicated, but there's a lot of details. Actually, I want to look at this one. There's one called Missed Tax Opportunities here. Mm-hmm. And when you guys were talking to me about the concept of tax sheltering, I was like, I always thought that was something politicians do just to like manipulate things. But when you guys were talking about tax sheltering, which I assume falls in this category, I'm like, oh, that's a legitimate legal structure from what it sounded like you were telling me about in the meeting for people to use to their benefit completely legally that anyone should use, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so when it comes to missing tax opportunities, it can be simple things like you're a high W-2 income earner and you're not maxing out your 401k. It could be that, hey, so 401k is a huge taxable bomb at the end of retirement. That every time I tell somebody that, they always like look at me sideways. Like, you are delaying U.S. government income by maxing out your 401k and waiting to 72 and a half to take it. So a lot of things we could do is like what we do with clients is, hey, you're getting ready to enter retirement. You're working right now. Why don't we do some tax conversions? Why don't we go from a traditional to a Roth standpoint? Are we taking advantage of HSA accounts? HSA account is tax-free the whole way. All right. You can put the dollars in, get a deduction. You can utilize it for health income, health. You can grow it and you never pay tax on it. You know, are we looking at educational if their kids on the books? And there's constantly new things that are constantly coming out. Like this year, July of 2025, the Trump account's coming out. Well, if you had a child in 2025 already or 2026, this July, I apologize, July 2026, the Trump accounts are going to be released. You should be wanting to know how you're going to get your free $1,000 right now from the U.S. government. You know, like, all right, I had a kid. Where's my $1,000 going to go? And how can I put more money into this account at the end of the day? What is the benefits for me? Oh, I can put $5,000 away and my wife can put $5,000 away and we get another tax write-off each year and we don't got to pay tax on that. All right, well, I'll give the tax burden to my children. You can do tax harvesting. So that's basically like when we look at taxable brokerage accounts. So I won't get too much into detail there. You got optimizing holding periods with capital gains that are heavily dependent on how long you hold the asset. And then obviously a lot of people don't know that you can give to your charity. So I'm a wealthy billionaire and I have a charity and I want to give it to my charity and all my children are the CEOs and CFOs and people of the charity. Well, all my money now I get a tax break, you know? So when you hear someone say, I'm giving money to my charity or my charity is getting XYZ, just know that there's tax breaks that come with that as well that you could benefit from if done properly.
Yeah,
done properly.
There's a very simple one also where estate taxes. So if you're rich enough, like
I was going to get into estate planning with that.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. But like, I won't get into it too much, but like, if you are worth too much, like they just take a bunch off the top of everything else. It's like, well, we could have just strategized this so I wasn't worth this much when I died. So there's just ways around it.
State tax can be up to 50%. And probate, I know in the state of Florida, runs anywhere from 3 to 8% of the estate asset.
I didn't even know probate got a cut.
So if I'm in a situation where I could benefit from this, basically I just reach out to you guys as my financial guys and I say like, hey, is there anything I should know here essentially? And then you sort of walk me down the path, right? And I can sort of relax into that. I mean, that's what it's been so far. You know, I wish I had barrels of money to put toward all the plans that I wish that we started talking about some of this stuff, right? But there's only so much I can do right now, you know, but it just seems like such a no-brainer, and it's mind-blowing to me, honestly, at 44 years old, to have this be the first age that it's really landed that, oh, I don't want to figure everything out for myself. It's not about pride. It's not about decision making. I don't have the information that you guys do. It's just that simple. I know the questions that I would need to ask you guys, but I don't have the information that you guys have. And like, as you're talking about all this stuff, I'm like, not going to remember that, not going to remember that, not going to remember that, but I don't need to because I just talk to you when the time comes. Right.
Mm-hmm. And yeah, I think you hit it on the head. And I think I kind of told you this as well. You're like, oh, I wish I had a barrel of money to give you. And I was like, well, no, I want to grow the barrel of money with you. I want to be side by side and I want to be your partner in crime at the end of the day. And I think that's the mishap when we talk about financial. Oh, this guy's an advisor, financial advisor. I need a bunch of money to go talk to him. I want to talk to you when you're poor. All right.
I had a bunch of money. They still didn't talk to me. And I definitely should have had these conversations at some point. That's my motivator. And I say this all the time and probably on every show. It's like, I should have had these conversations at some point in my life and nobody did with me. And, you know, a little bit of me blames my parents. A little bit of me blames the school system. A little bit of me blames myself. But at the end of the day, now my ability to do something about it is grabbing my friends like Mark and saying, hey, we need to do something about this. Mark being so inspired to say, hey, we need to do something about this, right? And so it's just a never-ending battle of like, I am motivated to make these changes and help people that actually want to meet us in the middle.
Yeah, I think it's really funny that there are other YouTube channels that talk about like finance plus EV stuff. They don't use that language, you know, but there's a whole bunch of stuff out there. But I actually think that the the people out there that are not in that world, that are just living their life and wasting their time and wasting their money like I used to, it's such a bigger audience. It's such a bigger number of people out there. And the conversation we're having is like, flip the switch, go from what you've been doing and just like level up with all of this potential. And all you got to do is just start a conversation with somebody. And actually, I want to ask you a question. It's a little bit vulnerable for me to ask, but also it's the right question to ask. I haven't prepped you on this. So I've told you I have a 14 and 11-year-old. Okay. And like, when I think about them and I think about, I was sitting down knowing that we were going to have this show. And I was asking myself, like, what do I lead them toward for positive expected value, financial relationship, moving forward? Like, neither of my kids have jobs. Is that something that I should be working on? Like, I genuinely don't know. You know, we talked about the starting point for anyone in general, sit down and start writing out a plan. That's probably the same for them. But what type of plan would a 14 and 11-year-old have today that I could actually go at the end of this show to my kids with? And I have no idea if you're going to have an answer to this, because I know you work with adults, but like, what comes up when I ask that question?
He's got a kid in high school. You're going to be surprised, I think.
Yeah. So I do have a high schooler. I know I don't look that young. I know I don't look that old, should I say? But yeah, I have a high schooler. So I think what it really comes down to is finding their passion. You know, like, your passion's poker, cards. Mike's passion is, you know, poker games, you know, talking to people, you know, having fun kind of concept. Find their passion. One thing I did is I found my son's passion. I don't golf. All right. He golfs. I had never picked a club up before. I was 333 pounds. If you want to see me swing a club, I look like Charles Barkley trying to hit water balloons on the ground. Like, I wasn't a golfer. Right. And I said, I played football, and I wanted my son to play football. You know, he's 6'2", 200 pounds. Everybody looks at him and they're like, oh, he's going to be a heck of a ball player because they know dad. But he plays golf. He's a golfer. And I actually love it because I get to sit back and watch him find his passion and his dream without me ever pushing. And so I think that comes the same in our careers. Like, if I was to ask you, Mark, 20 years ago, would you be doing this right now on YouTube? And would you be teaching people how to play poker and dealing with the poker world? You're probably like a 50-50, because you probably enjoyed poker 20 years ago. You probably were getting into dealing 20 years ago, but you didn't know this is where it would take you.
You got me trying to remember 20 years ago, but but I mean, I was 24. I actually think that I was in the poker world already.
Video was at least 15 years old on this channel. It couldn't have been that far ago.
Gotcha.
No,
like,
you're right.
Find out what they're passionate about. You know, there's millions of kids on YouTube right now that are opening books and gifts and videotaping themselves and putting it online, and they're making money on that.
Okay, so right now, my older kid is incredibly passionate about music. He plays percussion. He's made all-state concert percussion in North Carolina. Like, he's great at it. And I keep talking to him about like building a YouTube channel, but I feel like the way that I talk to him about it takes him out of the joy side of it and brings him into the obligation side, telling him to do it. So like, can you help me with this part? Like, so, okay, let's say that I've identified his passion. It's music. Now what?
Excellent. Take him to the mall, set him up, tell him no one's going to film. I want you to play for strangers. And as he plays for strangers, you film from a distance. And then allow him to see, what that's going to do is break him out of his comfort zone, because he's going to be playing inside of a crowd. So it's going to be something that we're all timid about. All right. None of us are going to walk into a mall right now and pick up an instrument and play, whether we're the best or we're not, or we're horrible. Like, it's just, we're going to be fear. So you're going to break that fear. So you're going to bring him to a new realm. You're breaking him out of his shell, seeing something that's different. People are going to start enjoying his music. You say he's in the top of North Carolina. Well, let's get him out to the world to see. If he's the top in North Carolina, how can we make him the top in the U.S. at his particular instrument? Like, who do we have to connect him with? Who's his idol that plays that instrument, and why he took so much passion around that instrument? How do we connect him to that person?
I mean,
so that's
plus EV relationship building for sure. And plus EV, like, learning how, right? The skill side of, if you know how to play music, there's a skill side. Look, this is excellent advice. And I think that it's like, just to give myself a little bit of fairness, like being in the day to day with the kids, it's hard to like break it up and just go do the thing. But I mean, this totally makes sense, and these experiences really build on it. Because I was thinking YouTube, but you're right. It's like there's too much back end for that.
Mm-hmm.
He's already like sort of about it. But just
and then
getting
also
him
what I
out
think you should, what I would do as well is set up a plan for your child. Like my son has a plan right now. He has a W-2 job. He's working at a local grocery store. And literally I told him, hey, mom and dad are usually footing the bill. Stepdad, stepmom, we're all usually footing the bill for you at your age. You know, you want a car, that's a responsibility. So you're going to have one bill. You got to pay your insurance. It's only fair. You want a luxury to drive, you got to pay the cost to drive. Flip side is I make him save 50% of his paycheck every single week. And I told him, I don't know how long it's going to take you to get to $1,000. I don't know how long it's going to take you to get to $5,000. But every time you get to one of those 1,000 milestones, we're going to take 50% of it and we're going to dump it into the market. So he's going to get to 1,000. We're going to take 500 and we're going to put it into the market. And he's going to save up to 5,000. And then we're going to take half of it and put it into the market. Now, Dad also told him that I'm going to match him, because for a child that constantly wants and has his own money now, he has the ability to just go out there and be reckless. But with him knowing, hey, if I say 50%, Dad's going to put this in, I'm going to put this in the market. Dad's going to match me on that. It's going to sit there and it's going to grow.
Incentives rule the world.
Say that again.
Incentives rule the world. You just got to control
right.
the incentives and you control the results.
So I did 3 things there with my son. First is I taught him how to budget. And that's where I think a lot of us as Americans, we don't live by a budget. My philosophy, you've heard this philosophy as well. I'm a 20-60-20 guy. If I'm making 100, if 100,000 is coming into the book every single year, 20,000 of that is going to go to me and my wife first. 20% is going to go up right off the top. I'm going to pay us. We're going to invest in ourselves, whether that's putting it into the market, whether that's going to exercise classes, whether that's signing up for an online poker dealer class to expand my knowledge around poker. I'm investing in myself the first 20%. And I'm probably saving that as well for retirement, if I'm really going to be honest, at the end of the day. The next 60%, I'm going to live off of. So all of my bills, I'm going to crunch into that 60%. So if you're outside of that 60%, you have 2 problems. You either have an income issue or a spending issue. And you figure out which one's easier to fix. Either go work harder and make more money or cut things off the balance sheet. And I think at the end of the day, we get locked into 2 categories: saver and spender. And I can tell you almost 90% of the time after talking to you, based on your car, if you're a spender or you're a saver. Because those are concrete paperweights.
No, 100% agree. There's so much that's like the very easiest way to go about it. Like, and it's so funny. There was the guy that like probably could have had some of these conversations with me. I'll never forget. He was a dealer at the time. He was a little bit older than me. I was in my early 20s, and I was pretty sure he was approaching financial independence at late 20s or early 30s. And he drove like a 10-year-old Saturn beater at the time. But like, I was very sure the money coming in was very good. And like, I didn't understand him. He was almost an alien. He was probably the type of saver that was saving 50%. And like, you just didn't meet a lot of those guys 20 years ago. And like, now he's like truly financially independent. He's like just spent 12 years in Colombia. And he finally came back to Florida and I finally met him. But like, there's just like different, like, I don't even know how I got on this tangent, if I'm being fully honest, but like,
no, I think you hit it right on the head. Like, it's, if the earlier we start, the better we'll be at the end of the day. And then Mark, if you can pull up, there's like 2 bullet points I want to touch on, because I know we're coming up on 7 o'clock here. The first one I want to touch on is, well, really, there's probably 3 more that I want to touch on, but really the 2 would be underinsuring the risk. So as we're young, making sure we have the right insurance on place. A lot of times people hear the word insurance and they're like, I don't want to deal with insurance.
Yeah, I can relate to that, and I'm not saying I'm still attached to it, but that's how it's felt for me for years.
Yep. And a lot of times it's because of, really, to be honest with you, it's health insurance. Everybody has dealt with health insurance in some capacity, and that's automatically in our brain what we go back to. Oh, I'm going to pay a premium, then I got to pay a deductible, and then I'm not going to get this. That's like automatically when I say insurance, what people think of, or they think of car insurance, and they say, "Oh, I remember when I got hit and the car insurance did nothing for me." All right. Well, there's
It's a super
thousands.
fair argument. I don't blame anybody that wants to be like kind of negative on it, but like I always like if I have the opportunity in these conversations, I try to just go back to like how a participating policy works versus how it doesn't. And it's such a fascinating conversation because when the incentives are aligned, everything changes. The exact same conversation we had earlier. And when basically there's no publicly traded stock that the profits go to, all of the people that have a policy with the company get a share of the profits. It's a very fascinating way that changes the math so quickly where, oh, because I'm putting the money into this, I actually want them to kind of have my best interest in mind. I kind of want them to be a little bit stringent, but not too stringent, right? This right balancing act. And, the reality is, as far as I can tell, I'm kind of, I'm not going to say I've been in this super long, but I've been extremely impressed at the reputation that Northwestern the companies have. And, that really the dividend changes so much of it that's the part of the conversation that you need to have.
Yeah, no, I mean, that just comes down to how we're, like Mike said, how we're invested and where we're placed on the market compared to a mutual company at the end of the day. But uninsuring your risk, I always have people always say, "Oh, I'm going to buy term and invest it different." And I always say, "Excellent. What if you die tomorrow?" You'll never get to that investment. There's two dates. There's a famous book that I read, and I'll quote. It's called The Dash. And there are two dates out there, and I think we talked about this as well, Mark, that you don't get to choose at the end of the day. And that's the day we're born and the day we die. And unfortunately, it's already chosen for us. And that's why the dash on your headstone is the smallest, because that's what you controlled. And the dates were already picked out for you. So being underinsured is something that we're all underinsured at the end of the day. We can be more insured. And insurance is just passing the buck to somebody else. It's just basically saying, "Hey, I'm willing to pay X amount for Y amount if, God forbid, something happens to me." And then the biggest one when it comes to insurance that I think people forget about, and most of the time it's free, is disability care coverage, long-term disability coverage. A lot of times people are working for a company that's offering it to them, and all they have to do is select a box. The company's willing to pay for it because they want a tax break as a benefit paying for their employees. And all you have to do is select a box. And a lot of times we sit down with clients and I say, "Hey, what's your long-term disability plan?"
So, are you still there?
Yeah, I'm still here. That's what happens.
Oh, yeah. All right. Wow. You look like you froze.
It was so close that I wasn't sure either.
That's what happens when I ask them about the disability plan.
That's fascinating. So a couple of things. One, actually, I want to blow us up for a second here. So I've had months now to sit with the insurance conversation, and I find myself, because insurance, like we talked about this, it just rubs people wrong just because the whole concept is insurance is there to make money, But the thing that I keep landing on when it comes to like life insurance is it's easy. And there's just something about like the fact that I've gone so many years in my life where I haven't done anything, and I've had too much pride to do the thing that maybe a person could come and tell me you could do better at by 1% or 2 or 3, but like chosen not to do anything, because like I could have built the habit where I just contribute to it every single month. And typically, if I remember correctly, and maybe this isn't the type of thing that no, I don't see why you wouldn't explain this to somebody. For life insurance, you don't pay every month for your whole life, right? You pay for a certain amount of time. Yeah. And so it's done at some point, and then it just keeps growing at that point. And like you said, you don't choose when you die. Like, why do I have to care Honestly, why do I have to care what's going to get me the absolute best bang for my buck? Sometimes the fact that it's easy makes it more valuable. That's how I feel about it, and I've been sitting with that. And it's like I could just do this thing that requires very little thought. Like it's not scary, and it's sort of more. And am I wrong that when someone does a life insurance policy, the payout amounts are guaranteed, and then later you can take out from it, and those amounts are guaranteed? Is that how that works?
Yep. So if we're going to more of like a permanent approach, you have the ability, depending on how it's built, how it's structured, you have the ability to earn what they call cash value within the policy or long-term saving dollars, and you have the ability to access them. You can access them in 3 different forms. You can do them as far as a loan, you can do them as far as a surrender, or as far as a cancellation, or even return of premiums. So there's multiple different ways you can build that out. You can even go to the market with it. So you can say, hey, I want to be equity based, or you can say, hey, I want to be fixed based with it.
Is it true? Is life insurance the one that you can have that like infinity thing where you get a car loan or whatever it is?
So that's you do have the ability to become what's called your personal bank. We have a lot of clients that do become their personal bank at the end of the day. And depending on how it's structured, it could be kind of what you stated. It could be something that we do for 10 years. It could be something that we fund for 20 years, or it can be something that we say, hey, we just want to take the elephant bite once a year and we want to do it for 40 years. So it's really built and customizable and tailored to the client's needs and the client's financial capacity. A lot of times we're working in other avenues as well, so just to take it into curiosity, just to break it down into basic numbers for you. Let's just say someone's making $150,000 a year and they want to save 20% of their income. Well, that's $30,000, right? Well, hey, we already know that 24,000 is going to be into their retirement account. We're going to max that out. Well, where do we put the other 7K? You're making over income limits on some accounts. So, hey, now we get creative with it. Where are we going to put this? How are we going to put this in the market? Are we going to go non-qualified and put it into something that's very aggressive? Are we going to put it into an insurance position? Like, we get creative with the dollars. The first place we go is always the 401k, because obviously nobody can beat free money. If an advisor tells you don't invest in your 401k and you're getting a free match, that's free money.
That's the number one, even like over credit cards, even like it's kind of the math on that's absurd.
Yeah, it's free money, whatever your match is.
Yeah, that's another thing. When I met with you guys identified the things that were the top priority based on just pure math. Like sometimes it's not that complicated,
Yeah, and it's not even. Most of the time it's like, oh man, I forgot about that, or oh, I didn't even know that, or man, I heard about that on a reel or on social media, but I didn't know how real it was. Like we constantly are flooded with information from left, right, up, down, side to side. And we as individuals have to decipher where that information has come from, how good it is, how quality it is, what research it's done. And that's, if you hear something about, if I ever hear anything about poker, you're my guy. Like, I'm calling you. Like, is this how it works? Is this how it goes? Like, is this the real way it's dealt out? Like, I got messed up on the flop on this one, man. Teach me. How can I get better? Like that's what I'm doing. So yeah, it could be, they could be structured any way so that it's personally fit to the actual client itself. You'll always hear that that's the way you become your own bank. It is true. I can tell you stories on stories on stories of clients that we have a client right now, literally 3 days ago, took $200,000 out of the policy to go buy an investment property. Now he's an older gentleman. He didn't just happen overnight get 200 in there, which I think this is a good segue to kind of segue over to our other report that we have, Mark. Like, just start somewhere and start small. And so we put this report together and we based it off of a 21-year-old. Can we zoom in there a little bit? I got it. No, you're good. It's on my screen. It's just smaller on my end. So this is just saying, hey, we're going to start with $100. We're going to start with $100 every single month. We're going to go out and try to get a 10% return. And we're going to do it from the age of 21 to 60. And this is just $100 compounding every single year. By the age of 60, you got 1.2 million. And that's just $100. So we could do the math, basic math. If we put 2 in there, we should double to 2.4. If we put 3 in there, it should go up to 3.6. Like if everything is going to compound the same way. So I think it's just starting small as well. Like We don't go out to the jungle and your first kill be a moose and we're going to track that bad boy back for 5 miles. No, we're going to go out and the first kill is probably going to be like a very, very small squirrel that you're going to be able to carry back in one hand, you know? And that's the same way we're going to approach it. We're not going moose and elk hunting day one. No, we're going to learn how to load the BB gun, you know?
Sure.
And so I think when you look at it from that perspective, like, hey, we're taking small steps every single month. And that's just $100 going into an account that's making 10% return. And I know some people may say, oh, well, hypothetically, you can't get a 10% return. And I would say, since I've been born, all right, which is 1988, the market has done more than 10% on an average if you look at some stocks and you look at some ETFs and some indexes. So I personally feel 10% is aggressive. We can drop it down to 8%. We could drop it down to 9%. But hey, that's just $100. If you're that worried about $100, then we have a lot of FOMO. And then we need to go back to our list. And on our list, it tells us that one of the things on our list is, there's two things on our list actually, is not taking enough risk and being in an inflation trap or having compounding loss. And the one other thing on our list is, that's the one on our list actually. That was the thing on the list I wanted to talk about. Not taking enough risk. So taking the wrong risk, or taking the wrong risk, or not taking enough risk. So yeah, those are two things right there. So you're low, or you just don't have enough risk at the end of the day. I'll quote this gentleman, an old advisor by the name of Nick Murray. I once heard him do a speech, and he said, if you're conservative when you're in retirement, you're in a slow suicide.
I like it. I like it.
So that's always stuck with me, you know. So I never want to be in a slow suicide, because my goal is to try to live as long as I possibly can live. So yeah, that's but yeah, if anybody wants to get with us and talk with us, have a one-on-one, sit down, chat, as Mark stated, it's free. We don't charge for conversations. We don't charge to even work with us. At the end of the day, we are fiduciaries. I'm going to sit at the same side of the table as you, and I'm going to go through your junk drawer with you. I'm going to give you some advice. I'm going to look at it from a different lens. I'm going to say, hey, this is what I've seen has been successful. This is what I've seen has not been successful. And I'm not telling you that what I'm telling you is the golden nugget, like, hey, this is the only thing that's right. No, there's other things out there that can be right. You know, there's other things out there that can also be wrong at the end of the day. But when I sit back and I look at what I've seen individuals do, compounding and consistently doing the same thing over and over and over and over. So I think that's what it comes down to. If you were to take one thing away from tonight's call, is whatever we decide to do and whatever goal you decide to go with, I want you to be like Michael Jordan, every night shooting 1,000 free throws. He didn't go out there and shoot 1,000 free throws to be the best free throw shooter. He went out there because he wanted the muscle memory. So every time his arm went like this, it was the exact same thing. And that's what I want for my clients. I want them to sit down, create a plan, and we start putting finances away, whether it's $25 into something, whether it's $50 into something, and we just keep it consistent. At the end of the day, that's what it comes down to, doing the same thing consistently. That's actually the only way I lost 80 pounds recently, not tap myself on my own back there.
Right. Nothing wrong with that. No, I appreciate all that. No, a lot of good info there. You know, the recurring theme is just kind of like creating the habits for yourself, right? We kind of started the show this way. It didn't matter what category it's in. Anything that you want to have self-improvement in, like, you got to be honest with yourself and be like, well, maybe I haven't been doing this as great as I want to be, or maybe I don't have this figured out. Maybe perhaps somebody else has a better view. And like, when I have these conversations with Devin and, you know, other advisors, it's like, oh, wow, that strategy makes a ton of sense if you think about it. But obviously I didn't think about that strategy. And obviously I consider myself pretty analytical on this topic. So it's a never ending battle of like, when there's like 12 variables in the equation, yeah, changing a 13th variable can change everything. And so, you know, when you work with us, you know, we talk about it all the time. We're going to meet up with you on a regular basis. Like it's at least, you know, once a year, twice a year, 3 times, whatever it is that makes sense. We're going to get back together and say, okay, well, what's changed? Like, we've talked about all these things. We had all these meetings. Hopefully we resonated with you in some ways, or we inspired you to be like, okay, well, I want to make these changes. I want to have improvement. Well, how has that changed? Maybe you got that better job that you were hoping for. Maybe you lowered the budget the way that you needed to, right? So like once you make those changes, we update the plan. Okay, well now what does it look like? Does this feel sustainable? Great. Okay, well how do we make this a continuous path of improvement? And then that's just how it works.
These are just really powerful conversations, and like listening to all of the expertise and the direction that you guys are taking us, and letting Devin cook today is just really a satisfying thing to have on YouTube here. And I mean, Mike, you reminded me of the I think it was like the English or the UK's biking team or something for the Olympics. They're famously known for adding all these 1% like improvements, and they went from being complete nobodies to like top of the world. I think that's from a book called The Power of Habit. Power of Habit and Atomic Habits are two fantastic books, by the way. Power of Habit talks more about like the macro of how habits in a business or an organization can impact things, and Atomic Habits breaks it down so that an individual can do it. Those are two great books. But I mean, that's what you reminded me of. And listening to Devin talk through all these details, man, do you have a lot of details and a lot of information, Devin? I mean, geez. And actually, there was a thing that I really wanted to talk about that we skipped over altogether. You guys brought up disability insurance. If a poker room, see, this is a funny one to me. Individuals don't want to buy this. That's just my opinion about it. Individuals don't want to buy it, but they do want to work somewhere that has it. If you're a poker room and you want to get disability insurance for the people that work there in order to care for them, because like when you're dealing poker all the time, right? It's tiring, it hurts, you can injure yourself, and this is how you make your money. If you hurt your hand, something like that. If a poker room wanted to get disability insurance, what do they do? Like I'm not talking about a big casino. I'm talking about a small card room somewhere, or maybe a chain of card rooms. Like where do they get disability insurance?
Yeah, so it would be we would come in first. We would obviously want to talk to the owners, see where they're at, and that's usually where it starts. Because hey,
oh wait, you're saying they get it from you?
Yeah,
of course.
Yeah. Oh, it's not, of course. I didn't know that.
Yeah. We would want to talk to the owners first. So we would want to sit down, talk to the owners, see where they're at and their income is at. We would create a plan for the owners because obviously they want to protect their income. So now that they're the owners of the business, there's a benefit, a tax write-off for the owners of the business if they offer that benefit to their employees.
Okay, hold on. A poker room, the owner of a poker room can reach out to you guys and actually get a disability plan for the poker room that gives them a tax benefit and makes it so that the employees have the security. You said there's something like even if it's provided free for the employees by the employer, they still have to like sign off on it or something in their
So a lot of times when it comes to group policy, group plans, we look at the whole group as one. So we say, all right, there's a 60-year-old and there's a 21-year-old. How many of these individuals are going to sign up in between kind of concepts? Then we get a full grouping number, and then we basically would go out and say, all right, what is the salaries of all the dealers? So they would have to have a salary of some capacity. Even if it's a draw. So like, even if they're like, oh, we make a draw at the end of the day, they have to have something on paper as a line item.
How does it work for poker dealers that make most of their money in tips?
You would want to go outside to secure your tips. You would have to go outside and do a standalone plan, because how it works is you take your salary. So let's just say for easy math, your salary is $100,000 and the poker room is like, all right, we're going to cover 50% of that. If you were to go down after 90 days, the poker room would pay you $50,000 on the course of a 12-month period. Since the poker room paid for that benefit, you as the consumer that's utilizing that benefit has to pay the tax on it. So you're making $50,000. Let's just say you
minus the taxes on that income tax.
Correct.
But still, okay.
38,000.
One second. So now that extra $50,000 that you have, you can go out and buy what's called a supplemental disability plan, and it allows you to protect up to 90% of the income. So that additional $40,000 is now protected by yourself. Depending on your age, obviously, is going to depend on the cost. But that $40,000 would be protected by you, and since you're paying for the benefit, now that becomes a tax-free benefit to you. So you were making $100,000, all right, And I'm going to set a perfect example. All right. I had a gentleman early in my career really push back on me on disability. And I was like, buddy, you are the only person that goes to work in your household. And if you go down for whatever reason, everything stops. All right.
Yeah,
you
we
have a
talked about the
disability-
candlesticks.
Correct. This guy was outside playing soccer with his son. What do you think happened to him?
Towards ACL.
Tore his Achilles.
Mm.
All right.
That's a modern. Why are there so much of that going around nowadays? Anyway, keep going.
Don't know. He was out for
Yeah.
9 months. And he pushed me on the disability, and we didn't max it out. We only did a small portion of it. And the moment he got healed, he called me and said, I don't care what it costs. I don't care what we got to do.
Never again.
For the last 9 months, my whole life has paused, and I haven't been able to do anything with my family because financially we weren't in the position we needed to be in.
Right.
And we
One of
maxed out.
the things that I really enjoyed about working with the two of you in our multiple calls that we had was, you know, you sort of paint the picture and like we just sort of get down there into reality, right?
Mhm.
And I really enjoyed receiving the conversation. It doesn't necessarily feel good to realize that there are things that can happen, and it doesn't necessarily feel good to have those conversations, but it's like you just sort of built, you do this very well. And I appreciate that you did this so well. You just built this path and you say, listen, here's where you're at right now. And we want to make it so that you never go below here.
Mhm.
And it's like, when I start thinking about that at first, I'm just like, well, it's never going to happen to me. But I mean, like that one thing that's really sobering is having a conversation with two other people, right? Like in a conversation with two other people, you can't say the lie that you can say just to yourself as easily because it's a lie, right? So like when you guys are talking to me, you're like, okay, here's your risk. It's essentially what the candlestick I was just referring to was.
Mhm.
Your risk is something happens so you can't make money anymore and you're screwed. And it's not a life that you can just like chill in if you get injured. And for me, like it was very helpful to understand that like my heart beating is what keeps my kids going, like all these different things. And
I'm
you
not
know,
insurable. Like, let's not forget that, like, I've had health issues. They won't even gamble on my life longevity. Like, that is a very sobering, frustrating thing to understand on my end. Like, I wasn't insurable the first time when I worked in life insurance because I was too fat, you know, when I was 330 pounds. So I was like, screw it, I'm going to lose a bunch of weight. And then I just started, you know, having these heart issues and fainting out of nowhere. So I got a pacemaker. So now I'm not insurable. So brutal.
definitely. Oh, Professor Sports Cars is in here. He's a big YouTuber in the sports car world. Oh, that's cool. He's going to be in Dallas. Hey, good to have you in here, man. Appreciate that. Yeah, Mike, you told me that story, and I was there with you during that whole time where you were fainting, and then you know you ended up just like living a life where now you're saying they won't even insure you, and that's pretty crazy. Just thinking about the fact that I'm in a situation where I can't, it's so simple. Some things are so simple. You just do it and it's simple and it's a benefit to you. And like one way or another, you win, right? Like I feel a little bit emotional is what's happening right now. Just thinking about the fact
this is a different moment that we've had in a long time right now.
Yeah. Well, and just thinking about the fact that like I've let so long go by without taking care of some basic things here. And, by the way, Professor, if you're watching, I would love to come back on the show. Just send me the invite on Instagram. I'll come back in. I had a really good time on his show. He's got a lot of people watching all the time, and he talks about some really important issues. But I mean, I'm thinking about it's a feeling right now. I'm trying to translate it. I'm thinking about the mentality that I've had for years, which was I'm not old yet. And I'm not actually gonna need to worry about anything. You know, meanwhile, everybody has these things too. I can remember when I was in high school and I was not paying close attention and I was driving to school and I was going 55 in like a 35 and I looked up and jammed on the brake because someone had come right in front of me, and I was like an inch away from the car, you know. But that could have gone differently. And like I'm driving to and from Texas periodically, and there's so many things that can happen, and it's so straightforward. And like, you know, my shoulder hurts right now. It impacts my dealing, and it's just sort of like life can have, and this is one of the beautiful things about working with people like you guys. Life can have a baseline that's your worst case scenario, and it doesn't have to be disaster. And you know, I can go on record and say I've hated the idea of getting insurance or anything like that, but it's just stupidity is the truth of it. You know, I mean, it just is. And like, I want people to work with you guys because like I couldn't advise somebody, and I can listen. The thing that I do incredibly well. I teach people to work in casinos as professional poker dealers. I've been doing it for years. I do it remotely. I have remote dealer school coming up. I'm going to put my banner up right now because this is a plus EV move, right? June 29th, you can secure your spot and this is true. This is the world's first fully online live poker dealer training. It is remote dealer training. You pay $650 if you do it early and $750, and you make that money back after you get the job in 2 days, right? Like, think of a better plus EV thing. I do that incredibly well. I teach people how to do this job incredibly well. I'm loving remote school right now. I had class yesterday. I've got another one tomorrow where I'm teaching people, and they love it, and I love it.
Which week are you on?
Right now is week 6, and then I'm taking a couple weeks in between before I start June 29th. And I mean, these guys are good. They could already get jobs at a lot of places. But my point is, I can do that. I cannot teach people about money. I'm not the right person for this. And that's why I want you guys here, because I'm so sick of people going out into this world and wasting their time, spending it in front of slot machines, at the roulette table, at the blackjack table. They're not counting cards most of the time. Like, there's all this
the mall or eBay or like Amazon. Like, the consumer world is quite ridiculous these days. And like, you know, phone games are easy to run up big bills. There's so many ways that they're like attacking you from every angle. Like, why don't you just take a step back and be like, why don't I really evaluate things and make sure? Like, I'm gonna be honest, I've been going through my own finances. There's larger expenses than I realized, or it's easy to say, oh, I spend about this on that. And like, the answer is you definitely don't, right? It's easy to lie to yourself, but numbers never lie. So there is like, whether or not like you need that honest conversation, or you need like mega advanced rollover stuff. Like, we do it all. It doesn't matter what quarter of the game you're in. We like to have those conversations, right?
Take a financial fast. You know, everyone's talking about fasting in their health and their life. Well, take a financial fast. Can you go 1 day without spending a dime? Have you ever been a day without spending a dime? Have you been 4 days without spending a dime? You know,
it's like, embarrassing to think about, Devin. Jeez. I'm trying to picture myself. Listen, I mean, this is what it's all about, right? Like we have someone come on for fitness last week, and a couple weeks before that we had a CPA, and before that it's just person after person comes on the show in order to try to help. Go ahead, Devin.
And I was going to say, that's what makes you so unique, Mark. What other, not only that you're the first poker dealer school online, but you are bringing everybody in that these individuals, once they graduate school, are going to need to associate themselves with. When I go and speak to doctors, okay, there are 5 of me sitting in the hallway waiting to come in and speak. And then there's 22 other advisors that have already spoke. And the reason being is because every medical profession goes through multiple seminars, multiple classes to tell them how to protect their income and how to protect themselves. The rest of society doesn't experience that. So what you're doing is at the same capacity and the same level as a Harvard medical school, where they're bringing in professionals to talk to their doctors. Or if I'm going down here to right here in Bradenton, down to the dental school to talk to all the dentists. That's exactly what they do. They bring multiple professions in to talk to these individuals. So when they go out to the workforce, they have a resource of Rolodex that they can go through and say, I need to call this person because this is where I'm at in life. I need to talk to that CPA because now I made money. I need to go talk to this fitness instructor because I'm burnt out. I'm working 15 hours a day. and now I don't know where my life is going kind of concept. So all of these individuals and professions, you're just looking to make people better and push them towards that at the end of the day. I just want to take a moment and give you your cake and give you your kudos as well, because it is your platform at the end of the day. And for you to understand that there's so many realms that need to go into this to make success. It's not just about making money, and it's not just about dealing cards. It's about Mark wants his people to be better in life so that they are going to go out and prosper at the end of the day.
Listen, I appreciate that. Sometimes I feel like we're screaming into the void, and let's not forget that Mike's the one that gets these guests to come on most of the time, and he does that on his own. And
You've given me the creative freedom, and you've also not vetted anything because you trust me. So there's a lot that you still have a part in that you've allowed me to have the freedom with.
It's nice having a long relationship with you where you make it like that. The relationship makes it easy. And I mean, this is another thing, right? Like you and I are authentic with each other. That right there is plus EV, being authentic with people around you. When I was in college, you know, I have an electrical engineering degree from Rensselaer Polytechnic Institute from years ago. I graduated in 2004. I hated it there. I didn't know how to be myself. I don't have any friends from college, like a couple of people I don't stay in touch with. You know, I do consider them friends, but you know what I'm saying? Like, I'm not close to anybody. I didn't know how to be authentic. And the authentic relationship with Mike makes that 100% easier. I had to learn how to do that. He and I went through our own individual journeys around the same time in order to get to the place where we could be authentic and understood how to do that. And like, yeah, listen, Devin, that was really nice of you to illustrate like that. And I do passionately bring this stuff into remote dealer school. When you learn how to deal poker with me, you're not just learning how to pass an audition. You're being set up for life nowadays. And I appreciate you highlighting that. You know,
absolutely.
It's just different. Mike, it seemed like you were going to say something.
It's the easiest next evolution, right? Like when you're so good at a subject that you can spend less and less time on the nuts and bolts and more time on producing a better outcome. Like that's just mastery in a nutshell.
Yeah. And the expertise that people bring to it make it so you don't have to do it yourself. And so when we're bringing people on the show, just, you know, keep in mind, you don't need to carry the burden for the topics for what it is that we're here for. Like we all live regular lives. We don't have time to figure all these details out. That's another thing. When it comes to money and financial markets and all that stuff, like I think of myself as smart. I just said I have an electrical engineering degree from a top engineering school from, you know, a bunch of years ago, but I still value myself as intelligent. Therefore, my ego says that I should be able to figure all this stuff out on my own. And meanwhile, you're here, Devin, saying you have mastery around this and you didn't figure this out on your own. You're learning the top stuff all over the place from the industry that you're in. And it's like, I don't need to be doing this. It's like, I just can relax into the mentorship of the relationship with you guys. And I want that for people. And that's why I bring you to the class. And that's why I educate people on, I don't think that there's a lot of people, maybe even in your world, that are truly educating on the negative EV systems, the way that I've been talking about that stuff. I feel proud of that, you know, but like, man, it's, you know, you guys certainly aren't going to steer people toward that.
No, definitely not. I mean, obviously, I have a lot of the stories of like, I'm about as good of a case scenario as you get from that industry, in my opinion. I mean, obviously there's some higher 1% outcomes, but like that was a pretty good outcome. I had a pretty significant profit loss over a really large sample. And like, it just isn't the same as it used to be. And that's okay. And like, I've learned everything I could from every negative system that exists. I've tried to extract every positive I could from them. And now I just know I can spend 1% of the effort and make 100 times the like results by just choosing this type of system.
Yeah.
No, and making small strides every day towards it, and always having your what is it called? You know, your sword in the fire at the end of the day. I think is where it truly comes down to is, hey, I want to bite the elephant just one bite, and I only want one bite a day because I want to go fast for the other 20 hours. You know, I want to be a lion. I want to sleep for 20 hours and eat for 4. You know, I want to be the king of the jungle at the end of the day. And that's where I think it comes down to is doing the same thing consistently over and over and over and over and over until eventually you do become the master. That's the old Karate Kid, right?
Mr. Miyagi?
Let me actually ask you something, because we're winding down now. We've got another 8 minutes or so here. And Devin, you're the perfect person to ask this question to. And Mike, obviously, you chime in as well. Casino gambling feels really fun. Okay. It doesn't feel great even when you're losing, you still get all the dopamine hits.
Mm-hmm.
When it comes to financial positive expected value decision making and working with your finances, like how does someone make that feel good? And at what stage does it start feeling good? Like I am 100% clear that for you it feels good. I don't fully understand because I'm still new to it.
Mm-hmm.
To me, it does feel like work. When does it start feeling good? How does that play out? Like, give me something to latch onto here.
Yeah, so when you're doing the same thing consistently, like pull back up the $100 investment that we had. Let's talk about the EV in that.
All right, I'll find that right now.
No problem.
And
I put you on the spot like
by
that.
the way, I love that you created these graphics.
And these are just generic graphics. They're not investment advice. But let's just take a look at this because you always talk about EV. So 2021, we're putting $100 in. In 10 years, that $100 with you constantly putting in $1,200 every single year with compounding interest at 10% of annual compound.
There's not a single poker dealer in the world that should not be able to do this, by the way. Sorry, keep going.
No, and that's the EV behind it.
Well, this is only 100 a month. Oh wow! I thought this was 100 a week.
100 a month.
200 a year, this is not that. This is 1,200 a year.
Correct. 1,200 a year, 100 a month, $25 a week. All right.
Yeah, no excuses.
And so, like you see here, and so then someone's going to say, "Well, I'm not 20. I'm not 21. I'm 41." All right. Well, let's do 200 or 300. We'll find your number. But really, what I want to focus in on is look at from 21 to 30. We only make about $20,000, and then the next 10 years, from 30 to 40, with that compounding interest, you make roughly about $60,000. Yeah, I understand there's contributions in there as well.
Only about 9,000 in contributions, right?
Correct. But let's look at the jump. 20,000 at the age of 40 of contributions. But let's look at the jump from 40 to 50. From 40 to 50, you've now put in what's that? That's 40 years right there, or 30 years. So you've put in $40,000 at the end of the day, and you made $261,000. So like if I was a poker guy, and let's just say for basic math, $100 to make in the poker room takes you 3 hours. All right. So we're going to times 3 times 12, which is 36. And then we're going to times that by 39. This is equivalent to 1,400 hours. So let's call it 1,500 for easy math. If we were working 1,500 hours divided by, there's usually 40 hours in a week, you're talking 37 weeks. So this is less than 1 year of your income.
I'm sitting with this. First of all, I mean, this is the type of thing that, makes it hurt that I'm 44 and just starting, is what it is, right? There are plenty of people that are younger that are going to be watching this too. Plenty of people in remote dealer school are young. Like I love that. I had people out of college, et cetera. Great. But that being said, so like are in order for it to feel good, because these numbers are powerful, in order for it to feel good, is it just about like, do you feel proud of staying with it after a certain amount of time? Do you feel amazed at the number growing? Like, are you staring at the number? Like, how do we make it?
What are you looking for in this part of the conversation, Mark?
Well, hold on a second. I think I got it, Mike. I think I got it here. So it feels good when you open up the account and you're 30 and you're like, man, I've been putting $100 away and I got 20,000. All right. Well, hey, if you needed that, then none of this money is tied to retirement as well. So you can access these funds throughout life. So now at 30, you wanted to put $20,000 as a down payment on a house. Well, hey, what is that? That's 10% of a $400,000 house, 5%, of a house, 10, is what you're getting put down at the end of the day. That's what you're putting down. So, I mean, if I was 30 and you told me, hey, here's 20,000 to go put as your down payment on your house, we wouldn't be in the place we're talking right now, where we have a lot of individuals that are on the marketplace that are looking for homes and they don't have a pot to piss in and one to throw it out in, because the whole time they've been spending, and I don't mean to be blunt, but Starbucks is $5 a drink right now. And there's people going out there to Starbucks before they go to work.
That's on the cheap end.
And I don't drink coffee, so I don't know. Like,
Yeah.
you know, like I talked to a client the other day. Her order at Starbucks was $14, and I literally was like,
That's a coffee and a sandwich. That's not that difficult.
20 something. I was like, what the hell at McDonald's, 20 something dollars.
that's $70 a week just in Starbucks. You are buying somebody else's dream. That guy's dream that created those coffees was like, I want a Starbucks on every corner, and I want everybody buying it, and I'm going to put all this sugar in it so they're addicted to it, and they get all this dopamine, and that's his dream. Like, literally, the McDonald's CEO came out and told us his family does not eat the burgers.
The answer to the question that I'm asking, you're giving me what I need in order to get that answer. The answer to the question that I'm asking is, when you look down in your account and you have a number there that is significant, that you can say every single day it's never been this big, right? That's the answer. And that's what I'm understanding. And also I know this because I've talked to you guys, and this is a part of the process of working with you, but the audience might not realize it is very easy to take that $20,000 when you look down at it and do something poorly. That's another reason why you need a financial advisor, because you create the habit. And this is what Plus EV habits are all about. You create the habit of making it so that before you do anything big in life, you give them a reach out, basically, and you get that second opinion on it, and you understand what decision you're making. And like, I'm so appreciative that I have this in my life, and hopefully I can have a significant event happen of some sort so that I can literally say, like, an example of when I reached out to you guys and made a decision that I would have made differently, right? But I mean, that's what it's all about. It's the expertise. And I understand now, like, I do not look at a large number in my bank account or any account that I have ever, just about. I have my own methods for trying to save up money, and they're not nearly as good. In retrospect, I realize, after having talked to you guys, is what they could have been. And there's plenty of stuff that I haven't been doing at all. Yeah, I didn't mean to hijack that there, but like, the answer to you get to look down when you have the habits. You get to look down and feel different than if you don't have money saved up and you stay with your poor habits, like I did for a long time.
Insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting a different result.
Totally. Listen, this has been amazing. I feel like we could have talked for another hour and a half easily. We didn't touch on a bunch of the things on that list that were interesting, and maybe we'll have to have you come back sometime soon and finish it out, or who knows what. But Devin, I really appreciate you spending the time here. Mike, I appreciate you spending the time. I appreciate you bringing Devin here. This was Mike that got Devin to come. If you're watching, this was not me reaching out to Devin. Mike makes everything so easy for me. It's insane. But Devin, before we wrap up here, is there anything you want to close with before we move on here and say goodnight?
Yeah, I mean, if there's anything that you took from this evening, is just getting started. Write down your goals, write down what you want to accomplish. And then I want you to tell it to everybody out there until it gets so scary that everyone's holding you accountable for those goals. You know, so if you want to achieve weight loss and fitness that the other gentleman talked about a couple of weeks ago, or the CPA talked about, if you want to get into taxing, like, just write it down what you want. Write down in the next 3 years where you're going to be, and then do whatever it takes to get there within that capacity. Obviously legalized and things like that, but hey, we're doing everything physically possible to get you there. And then reach out to us. Let's have a conversation. As I stated before, conversations are free. Pull out your junk drawer, send over the documents. Let us just put it into a snapshot of a plan. Take a pause from your daily life. We'll go through it. It's about an hour. And then you come out of that meeting with two situations. Either A, hey, everything I've been doing up to this point, I was educated right. I'm doing everything right. I have no gaps in what I'm doing. Or B, hey, there's a couple gaps. There's a couple candlesticks that are a little too red for my liking. Let me go ahead and let me address 1, 2, 3 items. And Mark, as a witness, you can tell everybody that, hey, we sit down and we run at your speed. However fast you want that car to go, I'm going to put it to that gas. But like you said, we're never going to take the gas off. If we're going to run at 20 miles an hour, we're going to run at 20 miles an hour no matter what. If you want to be gun-ho and you want to go 80 miles an hour, well, we're going to put our foot on the gas and let's run 80 miles an hour. And I'm going to work just as hard for you as you're willing to work for yourself.
Yeah, I did not feel like I was receiving a plan as much as I felt like I was participating in creating a plan. And I like the full circle moment. This is me talking about when I worked with you guys originally. And I like the full circle moment, not just, the beginning of the show, it was like, where do you start? Sit down and start writing out a plan. And now you're saying, not only sit down, if there's one thing you take from this, not only sit down and start writing out a plan, tell the plan to people in your life, lock it in, right? I love that. Devin, having you here has been tremendous. And yeah, we're going to have to do this again if you're open to it sometime, because there's a need for people in my world that are watching me on YouTube to level up into a world that's not that hard to level up into. We just don't do it, is the truth of it. And thank you for being here. And yeah,
thank you for having me.
Looking forward to talking to you soon.
Absolutely.
Mike, you just keep knocking it out of the park with the people that you bring in. I'm just deeply appreciative. Like always, I say that. You didn't get to talk. This is your field, and you didn't get to talk as much about it today.
I almost offered to not be on this episode, and for no other reason than like there was just a little bit too much overlap, I thought. But I don't know. This was the best way for me to listen and watch the show too, so I was okay being here. Like, I mentioned this to you earlier that my true inspiration for guests on the short term is a little dry right now. That doesn't mean that I can't like put some brain power to it and come up with something, but yeah.
Well, worry not, Mike. I have a plan. I know.
Yeah, actually, I do remember that. So that is very helpful, and I look forward to seeing what the next iteration looks like.
Yeah, totally, man. And thank you for being here as always. And yeah, I'm gonna reach out to you soon, and we'll talk about that. All right. But appreciate you. All right. If you're watching still, I gotta just jump on and say that was fantastic. And it's like there's no way for me to come on here and really feel like I'm like I want it to be clear that I'm not trying to do a sales thing. I'm not trying to sell to reach out to these guys. Like I'm telling you guys to do this because I genuinely want people in the poker dealing world to. Poker dealers today do not have financial advisors. They don't have financial guys, and they should, because they double their income. It's just a thing that I'm passionate about. And it's not just that. It's last week with fitness. It's with everything. Like we can be better. We have a lot of money that we are able to make doing this job. I help train you do this thing. And then also in the middle of all this, I was having an emotional moment. And Professor Sports Cards, who I watch his show all the time, he's in my comments, and I'm having an emotional moment, and I'm unable to actually address it properly. Like he's literally going to prep his show. His show starts in 25 minutes. If you're leaving here and you're interested in these things back here, this guy is talking about conversations in the sports card hobby that nobody talks about. He came into my chat, and I barely even had a second for him because of where we were in the moment. But I was a guest on his show a couple times, and he decided to come check it out. And I appreciate him being here, and I appreciate everyone being here. And next week, I'm excited about next Tuesday. I'm going to try to talk Mike into coming back on. I assume he'll do it, but I haven't confirmed, so I won't say. But I like what I'm about to do in the next show, Tuesday, 6 p.m. Eastern. See you there.